實拍實說，大地海外升學。
咁我哋好高興咧，就請到校長 Cris 同我哋分享下咧喺 Padworth 呢一度咧教學各方面嘅地方嘅。So thank you, Cris, for the interview. Nice talking to you.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the time to speak to me. Oh, I think Padworth is really unique. The small class sizes and actually the smallness of our community. We get to know the students really well. The students are very much supported. Our sort of staff to student ratio is 1-4, so that does mean that we have lots of staff who are here to be able to help the students develop both academically but also develop as all-round people. What we're also very strong at is helping students from a variety of academic backgrounds to really excel. So we've had students go on to Imperial College London, UCL, sort of University of Leeds and so on, so sort of top Russell Group universities, but we've also had students that go on to all sorts of other universities as well. I think the other thing that makes us unique is the fact that 80% of our students are international, and that does mean that there's a whole mix of different cultures, whole mix of different backgrounds that the students bring, and I think that helps enormously to help them to feel that they're settled, and that they're in an environment whereby they're going to be accepted. They're not outsiders, they're very much insiders. I think the variety of our programs that we offer, so from the sort of 2-year A level, the 18-month A level, the International Foundation year, the 2-year GCSE, 1-year GCSE, the pre-sessional courses in terms of extra English and language. I think we offer a whole range of different options for students. I think our university preparation programs are particularly helpful for helping students to get to the next level in terms of their education. And I suppose I would also say the food here is absolutely brilliant.
I tried it. It's really good.
And that does make a difference. I think when you've got an environment whereby the vast majority of students are boarders, I think things like that are really important. We are non-selective in terms of the variety of backgrounds that students have. What we're trying to do is support each individual to make sure that we know what their capabilities are. So we test them when they first come in to make sure that we understand where their strengths are, where they might need to improve, and then we track that really carefully. So we assess them every Saturday, and then we track that data very carefully in terms of making sure that we know how students are making progress, where they're making progress. If things are dipping, what are we going to do about it? But it's also what goes on in the lesson on a day-to-day basis. Certainly by the time they get to A-levels, we are expecting them to be taking more responsibility for their learning, supporting them in that journey to responsibility. But it's also about making sure that their needs are catered for as well as we possibly can. And we know all the research says that individual feedback for students, when they've completed work and they get that feedback and they understand exactly what they've done well, exactly where they can improve, here they get the time during those lessons to be able to get that feedback and to really understand what they need to do to improve. Yeah, we have a uniform code. We don't have a set uniform that they wear. We do expect them to be ready to work. So we do expect them to be smart and to be in a position whereby they're getting ready for the next stage in their journey. I think it does contribute towards the slightly more relaxed nature, and I think that the not having a strict uniform makes a difference to that. It also helps in terms of them taking responsibility. They have to think about what they're going to put on that day, and actually make sure that they are putting on clothes that are suitable in a work environment. So I suppose one obvious one would just be the implementation of our 5 core virtues that we want all students to make sure that they adhere to. We want them to be kind, we want them to be good team players, we want them to be reflective, we want them to be engaged, and we want them to be self-disciplined. And then that's embedded in all of our rewards. So when they do well in their work, or they do well outside in their extracurricular activities, or they do well when they're in the boarding house, They get points that go towards those things in terms of teaching and learning. We look for those things and to encourage them to be, for example, in the classroom, to make sure they're self-disciplined, but equally in the classroom to make sure that they're kind. And they're kind to themselves, they're kind to their teachers. Being kind is about making sure that they're honest with themselves, reflecting on where they need to, what they need to do better. We've had lots of initiatives in terms of boarding and making sure that our boarding provision is as good as it possibly can be. So lots of activities, we've introduced houses, we've done lots of work in terms of teaching and learning. So now really defining with the students what being a good learner looks like, what we expect of them, what they can expect of teachers. We've really pushed out the student council to make sure that the student council have developed as much as possible. One of the questions that I always ask students when they when I'm interviewing them is how they feel about coming to school in the UK. Homesick is perfectly normal. I've worked abroad for some time, and whilst I had a wonderful time, there were moments where I missed home, and that's perfectly normal. I think part of that is just about making sure that they've got lots of staff that they can go to, that they feel that they can talk to, and that could be their tutor, that could be their house parent, that could be their house tutor, that could be me, that could be their head of boarding, and they've got people that they can go and talk to. We have quite an extensive induction period when they first arrive, and we make sure that they're taken through what our expectations of them are, who they can talk to, how things run. I think often when you know what you're doing, and you know how things are meant to work, that just settles people down. We make sure that over the course of the first few weeks they have lots of check-in moments, and we also encourage them to be in touch with home. I think that's a really important part, not least because they've left a gap at home when they've come away from home, and the parents need to know that they're all okay. But it's equally just making sure that they are keeping that contact with home going. We have our international recruitment officers that are based overseas, so a lot of communication is done through that in terms of one-to-one. We also, obviously, we're communicating through things like emails. We have newsletters that we send out. To communicate with parents, that we would have Teams meetings with. We're very aware that sometimes there can be language issues, and therefore communicating with agents and making sure that we're all communicating through Teams whereby things can be translated. And that's proved particularly helpful with some parents, and it's just making sure that parents, agents, all feel part of our community and feel that they can ask questions, and no question is too small. We talk about this being a community of belonging, and I want students when they're here to feel that they're very much part of a community, but then when they move on to the next stage, there will always be a part of them that's at Padworth, and that they always feel they can come back, and we want all of the families to be part of that community as well. I think the key thing is to do your research and make sure that you've found out, and make sure that the school is the right school for you, whichever school you're choosing to go to, and think about your strengths and weaknesses. I think students that are looking to come to Padworth, I think take every opportunity that you can. Engage with the community as much as you possibly can. The more you engage with all sorts of different people, the more you'll get out of the community. But I think it's also about seeking support when you need support, and making sure that you take advantage of the adults and sometimes the older students that you've got around you who can support you and give you guidance. And in terms of parents, we'd very much say, if they've got a question that they want to ask, please feel free to ask. We're more than happy to have that very open communication, and we do very much view the relationship as a three-way relationship. Yes, it's between us and the student who's here, but it's also between the parents. We know the student, the parents know the student, and if we're all working together, then we can really make sure that the special things happen, and that we can help this young person be the very best that they can be.
我係 Cris， 我係讀11年班嘅。
我係 Audrey， 我今年係讀 Year 13。
我係 Sylvanus， 我都係讀11年班。
我係 Edison， 今年讀 Year 13。
我其實 係喺香港嗰陣時，我有 receive 到一個 opportunity， 就話可以過嚟英國讀書。我見到呢個 opportunity， 咁我咪拎咗佢。我一直都想要嚟外國讀書嘅，但係加咗呢個原因落去，咁我話咁好去啦。
係我屋企人，即係佢哋一直都有個諗法，就係想我哋嚟屋企，即係嚟英國讀書嘅。咁跟住之後就咁啱，因為我細佬妹即係佢哋啲歲數係啱啱好，即係可以跟翻英國嗰啲教學嗰啲制度，係啦。咁所以就嗰個時間就過咗嚟。
首先屋企人都想我哋成家過英國生活本身，唔係我覺得即係英國佢個 connection 即係比香港係更加強，即係
連接個世界。
即係可能啲公司啊，甚至係大學啊。咁如果我將來想 study 唔同嘅大學，我覺得嚟英國就會可能多啲 choice 同埋係。
咁其實起初都係我屋企人有打算話過嚟嘅，其實，但就係都考慮到因為我係讀緊書，而且佢哋屋企人都係有諗過叫我話去下其他地方咁拓展下視野。咁而且我哋成個家族好似暫時未有人去過西歐國家咁，就叫咗我過嚟體驗住先。咁之後有啲咩事都可以幫佢哋指下我。
佢哋個 teaching style 就比香港係即係唔同啲嘅。香港就一大堆人一齊教啊嘛，即係譬如一班裏邊有30幾個、20幾個。咁呢度咧就小班教學，
就好似8至10個咁樣。
香港就
幾十個
啦。
有陣時可能會睇你係揀咩科咯。
我覺得佢哋好着重就係佢哋好希望可以 encourage 到你自己去學自己去讀咁樣。佢哋會好鼓勵你去自己 look up 多啲唔同嘅嘢 resources 啊，咁樣自己上網揾，同埋佢哋係會成日好 encourage 你，即係喺 outside the classroom 去 achieve more 咁樣。
譬如我哋香港其實就係一個所謂嘅填鴨式教育咁，樣嘢都叫你㗎死記硬背。但你過到嚟，其實佢反而係會更加去偏向一個係希望你自己會明呢樣嘢點樣嚟咁樣，唔會叫你例如話一條公式，唔會叫你死背，但佢會同你講呢條式係點樣嚟，希望你知道可以點樣去應用。
即係自律咯，我覺得係。
自律啲，
即係自己要去管住自己啲學業，即係要 make sure 係所有嘢我都係。跟翻我自己 plan 個 schedule， 我讀緊 A level 啦。咁我覺得啲嘢係如果我一個 topic 我唔明嘅話，咁啊變咗之後，因為佢所有嘢都係連住咁樣上嘅，咁跟住變咗我之後嗰啲 topic 都會有問題。咁所以我就要去管住自己去 make sure 我係真係明晒嗰個 topic， 咁令到我之後學嗰啲 topic 都唔會有太大影響。
講緊 language 方面，即係即係首先我覺得學校佢一直喺度不停去鼓勵你啊 ，even 你可能你其實唔係太好都好，佢哋都唔會話即係佢都會即係俾多啲信心你咁樣咯，係啊，俾啲信心自己同埋多啲去 seek for help 問咯。我覺得呢度啲人佢都唔介意你幫你，同埋佢亦都會好樂意幫你，我覺得係。
我反而係話唔好俾太大壓力自己咯，咁不過我自己係會咁樣，有陣時會覺得呢樣嘢做唔好，嗰樣嘢做唔好，但其實多數都會有一個人會同我講話，其實你唔至於樣樣都唔得咯，反而呢樣嘢可能會幫我成長。
如果想嚟呢邊讀書嘅話，我覺得係有需要去係 join 多啲出面嘅嘢咯，而去豐富你自己嘅 portfolio。
有海外升學問題，即刻 WhatsApp 大地啦！